Hi, this is Sam Gresham. I'm the Executive Director of the Ohio Commission on African American Males here in the state of Ohio. And this is the budget alert. In your community right now, if you didn't know it, the state of Ohio is going through a budget process of establishing priorities. A budget is an important thing for a state, and it's constituted on a 2-year basis. It's called a biennium. Why is that budget important? Because that budget is a mathematical calculations based on 2 things: the revenues that are coming in and the expected expenditures of that state. It is also a document that reflects the priorities of the General Assembly and of the governor in the state of Ohio. So when you read in the paper, the governor is considering selling 5 prisons. He's talking about cutting child care, and he's talking about selling the turnpike. He's talking about doing those types of things. They have an effect where you see a governor who's invested into a community, into its educational program, into its infrastructure and improving those things. That sends you a whole different set of messages. But what really creates those conditions is the resources available and the choices that that governor made. In this state budget, if the governor decided to improve the sales tax by 3% and reduce the 5-year 21% tax break, there would be no need for program cuts. And in fact, that budget would have a surplus of about $7 billion if that was done. Fortunately, or whichever way you come down on it, that decision was not made to increase those taxes. It was made to reduce the budget and balance the budget by cutting programs. Now, inside of those programs, there's some serious things that affect you and your local community. The first one I want to bring to your attention is the phase out of the tangible public utility and property tax. What that means is in your community, public utilities were paying a tax that were used by the public schools to augment their operation. They're now phasing that out. What does that really mean? Across the state, public schools will lose $1.3 billion in the first year, and over a 2-year period, they will lose $3.1 billion. That's a lot of money that your public school will have to be without. Here in Columbus, in the state capital, the Columbus Public Schools identified over that 2-year period, they're going to lose $14 million. So that says by June of this year, they're going to have to identify ways of creating cuts so that they can be able to balance that budget. By reducing those utility and personal property taxes, it creates that void. Now, the alternative is probably going to be an increase in local real estate taxes, which is a levy, because you can't continue to operate a school with such large deficit. The second thing is associated with the schools also. It's called a parent trigger. And in House Bill 153, what it allows the General Assembly and what it allows a parent to do and a group of parents is to put a petition together and demand of the schools that they reform the school system and that they choose a series of reform alternatives that are available to them in the simplest terms. That empowers parents because that provides them with an opportunity to control the school system. But it also allows a small group of people to potentially change the direction of the school system. Now, in the legislation, at this point, as it comes out the Senate, it may have some modification on how often parent can do that, or it may not have any modifications on how often parents can do that. That's something you need to look at. Now, the next thing that goes right into your pocketbook is prevailing wages, or goes in the pocketbook of family members. House Bill 153 eliminates prevailing wages on a regional level in communities across the state of Ohio. Now, what's prevailing wages? Prevailing wages was what was considered reasonable compensation for work provided over a regional area. And it was established by 3 levels: city government, state government, and the federal government. The federal government will continue to have prevailing wages, but from a state standpoint, they will no longer have prevailing wages. Now, what's the net effect of that? It will reduce the cost of construction of a project, but it will also reduce the wages available to workers in those communities. Those are some things that you have to look out for and the net effect on your community. The final thing I want to talk about is the Consumers Council. And what the Consumers Council is an independent entity that lobbies and organizes and advocates for citizens when it comes to utilities. The Consumer Council has worked in the last 10 years in the state of Ohio advocating with the PUCO and in the General Assembly for you as a citizen. What this budget does to it is reduce its dollars, and it says the PUCO, which is the Public Utility Commission, and the Consumers Council are similar, and they serve the same purpose. Therefore, we don't need both of them. Now, that's in the eye of the beholder. You'll have to decide whether the PUCO, Public Utilities Commission, or the Consumers Council functions in the same area. And will citizens lose the ability to have their advocate in the state government for themselves? Now, we've covered these few elements, but there are a lot more things in the state budget that will affect you. We will be presenting over time different elements of what the budget is. Now, the process is not over. The budget has to go through the Senate. There are 33 members of the Senate, and every person in the state of Ohio has at least one senator representing them. In most cases, there are two because of overlapping jurisdiction. It's important that you go to your senator, you go to your representative, and let them know how you feel. It's important also that you go to our website and get as much information as possible. That's OCAAM.org, OCAAM.org, OCAAM.org. Or call your state representative and tell them, your senator or your rep, and tell them, I want to talk about the budget and it has an effect on me. It is important you know about the budget, and it's important that you have a sense of understanding. And we hope you take our information and use it to improve your condition. Again, my name is Samuel Gresham. I'm the Executive Director of the Ohio Commission on African American Males, and this has been an OCAM Budget Alert.